Hello and welcome to the Awakening with Kelvin Phiri Podcast, part of our Bridges to Prosperity series, where we look at the systems, values, and choices shaping the future of Africa by the year 2050. Today, we unpack a story that affects every Zambian, whether you're at home or abroad. It's about Zambia's debt restructuring, what it really means, how we got here, and why it matters for our future. Disclaimer. The views shared in this episode are for public education and discussion. They are not financial or investment advice. The goal is to make complex national issues easy to understand so that every citizen can take part in the national conversation. Where we are now in late October 2025, Finance Minister Dr. Situmbeko Musokotwane announced that about 94% of Zambia's eligible debt has now been restructured. That means nearly all our lenders from countries like China and India to international bondholders have agreed to new repayment terms that make it easier for Zambia to pay back what it owes. It's a major milestone after years of economic strain. What debt restructuring means. So, what does debt restructuring actually mean? Imagine you've borrowed money to build a house, but your income drops and you can't keep up with the payments. You go back to the bank and say, I can't pay this fast. Can you give me more time or lower the interest? That's what Zambia did. We went back to our lenders and asked for better terms, and they agreed. They've either extended the repayment period, reduced the interest rate, or in some cases, forgiven part of the debt. This gives Zambia breathing space to recover, rebuild, and focus on growth. How did we get here? To understand why restructuring was necessary, we need to look back at how Zambia's debt has grown over time. In 2010, just before the Patriotic Front came into power, Zambia's external public debt stood at around $2 billion United States dollars. At that time, Zambia had just benefited from the heavily indebted poor country's debt relief program, which wiped out most old debts. Our debt was low, manageable, and considered sustainable. Then came 2011, when the Patriotic Front government took office. At that point, Zambia still owed roughly the same, about $2.1 billion, or around 11% of gross domestic product, according to the International Monetary Fund. Debt levels were comfortable and the economy was stable. But things changed quickly. The new government launched ambitious infrastructure projects, roads, bridges, airports, and power stations. To fund them, Zambia began borrowing, not only from the World Bank and the African Development Bank, but also from commercial lenders and countries such as China and India. In 2012, Zambia issued its first Eurobond, raising $750 million. That was followed by a second Eurobond in 2014 for $1 billion and a third in 2015 for $1.25 billion. By 2016, external debt had climbed close to $10 billion. By 2019, it stood near $12 billion, and the IMF warned that Zambia was at high risk of debt distress. Then came the perfect storm: falling copper prices, a weak kwacha, droughts, and finally COVID-19. By 2020, central government external debt was about $13 billion, and Zambia defaulted in November 2020, becoming Africa's first pandemic-era sovereign default. By the time the Patriotic Front left office in 2021, Zambia's external public debt had risen to about $14.7 billion, while total public debt, including domestic borrowing, stood at roughly $26 billion, according to the Ministry of Finance. The new United Party for National Development government inherited this burden. Since then, under President Hakainde Hichilema and Finance Minister Musokotwane, Zambia has worked to stabilize and restructure. In 2024, agreements were signed with official creditors, including China and India, and a deal in principle was reached with bondholders. By October 2025, the finance minister announced that around 94% of Zambia's eligible debt had been successfully restructured. Most lenders have now agreed to new repayment terms, giving Zambia room to breathe again. Has the total debt reduced? Yes, Zambia's total public debt has reduced since 2021. According to the Ministry of Finance's official debt statistical bulletins, in 2021, Zambia's external public debt stood at $14.7 billion and domestic debt at about $11.3 billion, giving a total of roughly $26 billion. By end December 2024, external debt was $15.43 billion and domestic debt was about $6.1 billion, giving a combined total of approximately $21.5 billion. That's a reduction of roughly $4.5 billion, or about 17 to 20% since 2021, a genuine improvement confirmed by official Ministry of Finance reports. The 2025 debt sustainability analysis later clarified that this year's total remained the same in nominal terms, but part of the debt was reclassified between domestic and external categories. This did not mean Zambia borrowed more. It simply means the debt is now being reported more accurately. Why the debt ballooned in the first place? Much of the borrowing went into infrastructure, roads, airports, and power stations meant to spark growth, but not all of these projects produced enough income to repay their loans. Add to that external shocks, falling copper prices, a weak kwacha, COVID-19, and recurring droughts, and debt quickly became unsustainable. What it means now, with most of the debt restructured, Zambia has a chance to rebuild. Stability, the kwacha can begin to stabilize. Fiscal space, more funds can go into health, education, and local development. Investor confidence, responsible debt management restores trust. Hope for the future, a chance to move from survival to sustainable growth. Lessons from the journey. Borrowing isn't wrong, every nation borrows, but every loan should produce value. Each time we borrow, we must ask, will this project create growth and jobs or just add another burden to our children's future? Because every dollar borrowed in our name is a promise our grandchildren must keep. Looking ahead, debt restructuring gives Zambia a second chance, but how we use it will define our future. The goal now must be self-reliance through production, strengthen agriculture, add value to copper and other minerals, support local manufacturing, and invest in innovation. If we use this breathing space wisely, we can build an economy that stands on its own feet. Reflection. Building bridges. For those of us in the diaspora, this is also a lesson. Progress takes time, patience, and discipline, the same principles we use when building homes and businesses abroad. Zambia has been given room to breathe, but breathing space is not freedom. It's an opportunity to rebuild. Let's make sure we use it well. Thank you for listening to the Awakening with Kelvin Phiri Podcast, part of the Bridges to Prosperity series. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who wants to understand where our country stands and where we're headed. Remember, prosperity begins when citizens understand their nation's journey and play their part. Until next time, please remember that Zambia's greatest asset has always been its people.